Hello and welcome to another chess game. In this video I'm going to show a special and very tense game from the Chessable Masters online tournament. The game is between Alexander Grischuk and Anish Giri. It is special because they played the game on the birthday of Anish Giri, and it is very tense for several reasons. So firstly, Alexander Grischuk, who is playing with the white pieces, has to win this game in order to stay in the match. A draw or a win for Anish Giri would clinch the match victory and he could go on to the semi-final. Moreover, it is tense because on the first day they had a very close day, so they played 4 rapid games which were all drawn, they played 2 blitz games which were drawn as well, and everything went down to the so-called Armageddon game, but Anish Giri was with the black pieces, so a draw was enough for him. And Anish played actually very well and managed to reach a position when both players only had 1-1 rook, which is of course a dead drawn position. However, Alexander Grischuk tried to flag Anish, so just made moves in order to hope that Anish would run out of time. It actually didn't happen, and Anish was able to hold, but this behavior clearly shows that Grischuk was willing to do whatever it takes to win the match. So it obviously increased the tension for the second day as well. Now let's dive into the game. The opening was the so-called Italian game, which is incredibly common these days, and these players play it day and night. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5, c3, knight f6, very standard move, d3, d6. And this is the position when Grischuk plays a less common continuation. Knowing he has to win, he wants to go a bit out of the beaten track, so he plays bishop g5. Anish replies with h6, bishop h4, and here Blacks plays a5, which is a somewhat uncommon move. Of course, it prevents White from playing b4, however, it also weakens the b5 square. The game continues with knight bd2, bishop a7, h3. And again, in this position, it is Black who only needs a draw, who is the one who takes a more committal decision with g5. Now comes bishop g3, and the Black king's position is going to be quite weak for the rest of the game because of this g5 move. So now Anish castles, queen e2, preparing to long castle, king g7 to strengthen a bit of the king's position, and long castle from Grischuk. Blacks plays bishop d7, finishing the development, trying to push something like b5 at some point for some counterplay, but Grischuk prevents it with bishop b5. In this position, it is very clear that it was White who got out of the opening with the upper hand. The Black's king's position is going to be weak in the long run, given his pawn structure on the king's side. This f5 square is weak, and moreover, White is the one who has the sort of the only opening move with at some point playing for d4. So White idea could be to put the king to b1 to safety, and then reroute the knight to e3, and then go for this d4 plan. Here Anish plays queen e7. Grischuk played bishop h2, which is a bit hard to understand why he made this move, probably to prevent some knight h5 ideas. So knight h5 would have hit the g3 bishop. And in this position, Anish tries to go for counterplay and plays a4. And the idea is to open up the a file even for the price of a pawn and try to create some counterplay. Well, Grischuk decides not to take it and just plays simply e3 to avoid any complications on the queen side, but also actually taking wouldn't have been a big mistake. So now this pawn is hanging again, and Anish decides to defend it with knight b8, so now this bishop defends the pawn. However, once the knight went away, the d4 square is less under control, so White can push d4. And this is exactly what Grischuk did, no waste of time. So this is of course very unpleasant for Black. The position starts to open up, he just undeveloped his knight, and at some point the king can be weak. Anish takes on d4. And in this position, well, White has 2 continuation to take, so he can take with the pawn, or Grischuk can also take with the knight. I would actually strongly favor taking with the knight, to activate the knight as well, hinting towards some knight f5, and planning to play e5 very soon to open this bishop as well. However, Grischuk decided to take with the pawn, which is not a mistake per se. It creates a strong pawn center. However, these pawns can also be weak, and this bishop might just not be in the game for quite some time again. So Anish develops back with knight c6, putting some pressure on the d4 pawn, and Grischuk further goes with e5. Now Anish took the pawn, he took back with the pawn, and knight d5. So now the position starts to open up, and actually the black is the one who starts to have active pieces. This knight is very well placed, this bishop is good, this knight can at some point jump, and white's main problem is that the bishop on h2 is quite passive. However, the black king is still weak, and white can try to attack. So this is what Grischuk does. Goes knight e4, so now it is a discovered attack towards this knight. Black's plays bishop e6. Already starts to hint that these light squares are on the white king, so the c4, b3, c2, or actually even a2 squares are very weak around the white king. In this position, well, something like king b1 would make the most sense to me. However, Grischuk decided to play rook h e1, which of course develops the rook, but it's a bit unclear what he actually wants to do with this rook. Anish goes for rook fd8, putting the rook to the open file. In this position, actually Grischuk moved into the trap of Anish. So he played queen c2, and in this position I invite you to stop the video and start to think about what would be the best continuation for black. So Anish is known to be an often draw-making player, so he has many games ending in draws. However, when he has the opportunity to go for it, he often does. So that's just what happened in this game as well. He played knight b4, sacrificing his knight. Actually, this would have been also possible, but he sacrificed the other one, leading to the same lines. So knight b4. And the idea is, white has to take, what else? And when the other knight takes back, then this queen doesn't really have a good square to go to. So, well, basically you can check yourself, but the only square that's available and doesn't lose immediately would be queen e2. However, in this case, black could play knight a2 check, king b1, and activate his queen with queen b4. And actually this position is very complicated. However, you can see that this bishop on h2 is just completely out of play. So basically on the king side and in the center, black has equal amount of pieces as white has. However, this king is very weak, and Anish evaluated this correctly, that black has more than enough counterplay for the piece. So actually Grischuk didn't even go for this line. He didn't save his queen, but he decided to take on d8 with the rook. So the idea is that if black will recapture, then white can take now on a4, and previously the rook was on a8, therefore this taking on a4 was not possible because it would have run into the rook's attack. However, right now the white queen is safe on a4. So for that reason, instead of taking back on d8, black has another great continuation. Why not just taking the queen of white? So Anish took on c2 the white queen, and here Grischuk took the other rook of Anish, and black takes on e1. So if you now stop for a while and start counting the material, so white has a rook and a minor piece for the queen. However, once again, many pieces are hanging, so this bishop is hanging and this knight is hanging. But the problem is that black is threatening a very strong queen b4 move. And so queen b4 would attack the b5 bishop and the e4 knight, and potentially the e1 knight if white recaptures on e1. And there is of course a very important continuation to check, which is if white plays knight f6, trying to go directly for the mate with rook g8. The problem is that black can now play queen c5 check, and actually black will be the one who arrives to the opponent's king first, and this is made in a few moves, For example, queen b1, bishop b3 check, king e1, and queen f2 checkmate. So for that reason, if we go back to the position of the game, instead of knight f6, the best continuation, according to the engines, would be playing knight fd2. And now, sooner or later, white will again threaten with knight f6. His bishop is still hanging, and for the time being, this knight is a bit out of the play. And once white plays something like queen d1, white can try to attack the black king with the knight f6 move. So this is an incredibly complicated position, and probably if you are Grischuk, who needs to win this game, is actually quite happy about the complications. However, Grischuk made a huge mistake, actually the final mistake, because in this position he took back the knight on e1, which temporarily equalizes the material. However, it's also only temporal, because now the black queen can enter with queen b4, and this is just attacks the whole army of white, the bishop, the knight, the other knight as well actually, and there is nothing white can do here. He's just going to drop way too many pieces. So in this position, Grischuk tried knight d3. However, Anish just took a knight, and when rook takes a7, he just played c6, which actually captures this bishop as well. So now white is going to drop at least one more piece, and also his king is still very weak. His bishop is out of the play, there is no coordination, so black is just completely winning. Grischuk tried one more move, rook takes e4, but Anish just took on g2, and in this position this bishop is hanging and this bishop is hanging, so white is going to be down on material well, big time. So Grischuk decided to resign, and with this victory, Giri Anish made it to the semi-finals, and he's going to face Jan Nepomniachtchi actually today. And the other semi-final is between Magnus Carlsen and Dingley Ram. So this actually sums up this video, so thanks you very much for watching it. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did so, you can give it a thumbs up. And also, if you have any questions regarding the game, you can type it in the comment section under the video, and I will answer them. See you in the next video.